And now, two dudes who want to express their views on different things that are going on in the world around us. Who am I kidding? We're the Patriots of Faith. Welcome to our show. So, we've had sort of a slow week, and we're just sort of kind of gonna wing it, you might say.
And it is June 12th, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
June 12th, 2015, another Friday night.
Yeah, we're extremely organized tonight, in case you can't tell.
Got music playing in the background, and we did not mention we are on location in front of the beautiful Cream City sign right off the depot.
And then we're
on
getting
the depot grounds.
And then we're being stared at by this creepy mannequin. And whenever I first walked over to this windowsill that my camera is sitting on, I looked in the window and I saw the thing staring at me, and it scared me nearly half to death.
As you can see in the picture right here on your screen right now.
Yeah, but anyway, we're just going to go through some headlines, and hopefully you'll gain something from what we say tonight.
Yeah, we are, we'll probably be pretty entertaining tonight because we don't have a whole lot of major earth-shattering news. There's been a few developments throughout the week that have kind of caught people off guard. Of course, the biggest story probably this week was that major government data hacking, and it's being blamed on the Chinese. The Chinese are not accepting responsibility for it. But the headline from Fox News tonight, as we were researching, says military intelligence data exposed by new hack of sensitive U.S. government files. This is actually a secondary hack. The original hack, I'm not sure exactly when it came. It came a while back. But again, these are hackers linked to China. They appear to have gained access to the sensitive background information submitted by intelligence and military personnel for security clearances. That's pretty scary right there. That's what several of our nation's officials said today. Hackers nab data on every federal employee is what a union's claiming. We don't know if that's true or not. There's a union that's claiming that every federal employee has information's been grabbed. There's a lot of our nation's secrets that apparently have been grabbed. Up to 14 million workers were exposed to this federal hack. And then there's an article too saying Russia playing the victim by admitting to being hacked. But of course, as we said, China's not denying allegations. But this is pretty scary stuff here because we live in such an age now. I mean, we've seen time after time these hackings. We see Bank of America. We saw Target a couple of years back with credit card data being breached. Home Depot had that happen a number of years back. So we're in an age where all of our personal information, what makes us us from a information standpoint, is all now subject to these teams of people who are hacking. Some do it as competition. They have hackers that try to do it for kicks. They don't plan on. You talk to some of these forensic folks that say it's just a hobby for them. They want to see how far they can go reaching certain databases and stuff like that. But then you've got other nations, just like what happened with Sony Pictures, and you've got some of these other that happened back, of course, just a few months back. But it's a dangerous world we live in when we have so much classified information, so much crucial information that's now being subject to potential hacking, and especially when you got government secrets, you got weapons and everything else that are subject to these sorts of things. That is probably an upholstery truck going by us right now. That's nice about being on location. When you're sitting in a library or a office like we have been doing for our first few shows this year, you don't get a change of scenery, but we get music over at Crawdaddy's. We get the Cream City sign. We get vehicles passing by. It keeps it interesting.
Oh yeah, especially when they need to change their mufflers.
Another article I saw today too is fears are starting to rise that a chaotic Libya like we're seeing now is the new ISIS route to the west. There's a lot of ISIS involvement and developments going on in Libya, and there's a lot of concerns. Of course, Libya is not far from Italy and from other Italian areas, and I believe ISIS actually made a statement a couple of months ago targeting the Vatican, targeting the Pope, and I guess you probably remember that story too a while back and everything, and that's pretty scary when you've got direct targets that way, and they're actually literally targeting certain things, and sometimes it's just fluff, but other times you gotta wonder, you gotta take some of these things pretty seriously.
It's our government needs to take it more seriously too.
Yeah.
That's one thing where we really need this. I'm not for a whole lot of government interference in things, but this is something that I think we need to interfere. As Marco Rubio said, he used the quote from the movie Taken to describe what his plan for ISIS was. We will, I think it was, we will hunt you, or we'll seek you, or something like that. We will find you and we will kill you. That's really, I mean, what we need to do with ISIS right now.
Yeah,
there's really no other option.
Well, you look at the strong presidency we had under the Reagan administration, and I mean, you think about it, Reagan he took the inauguration on January 20th, 1981, just like all presidents do. They take the inauguration on January 20th. And for months, we had all those American hostages in Iran and Tehran. All those hostages were being held. And the very moment, just shortly after Reagan was inaugurated, all those prisoners were released from Tehran. And the reason was that Reagan didn't just automatically make that his first point of order to go over to Tehran and bomb them or anything like that. They simply were worried about how serious Reagan was about his threats. And once he was inaugurated, they simply released him that day. So that's, I mean, and then the Soviet Union took Reagan seriously as well. That's why the Cold War was ended. It's because they took him seriously. We got a presidential administration now. We got a lot of politicians now. The world's not taking it seriously. That's why ISIS is allowed to foster. That's why North Korea and China was spitting in our face with Sony Pictures. Of course, Sony's run by a Japanese company, but Sony Pictures used to be Columbia Pictures, a major American studio. And China's over there trying to test to see how far we'll go. They're building these massive. They built these massive islands that are over 1,000 acres. They made them from scratch in the areas just off China, and they're putting ballistic missiles there and everything else. They're trying to push the world to see how far we'll go and everything. And we don't have an administration that's just strong at all. That's a major threat when you look at the world around us.
What we need is an administration that will say, here's a red line.
Right.
And if you cross it, this is what is going to happen.
That is really what we need for sure.
Here is, we were talking about presidential administrations. One of the things that has happened today is that the House voted not to pass a trade bill that would give the president authority to make fast trade agreements with I really don't really understand that much about what it would allow him to do. I haven't really looked into it, but I do know that it was something that would grant him more power. And the surprising thing about it is the Democrats voted against this legislation more strongly than the Republicans did, which basically means that they are taking that they are weakening their own president.
Absolutely.
And so that's a very interesting
the
development there.
headline I saw from CNN while doing some show prep tonight says Democrats just made Obama a lame duck. This came earlier this evening, probably about 7 or so this evening. That article was brought up as one of the top stories on CNN's website right now. Of course, as people watch this, that'll be yesterday's news, I'm sure. But no, that's a huge development right there, because what happened from a political strategy standpoint too, it used to be the conversation that Republicans were always divided, and the Democrats, the reason why they were able to win is because they were united. A decade ago, Democrats were recruiting candidates for congressional seats, even in states like Indiana and Kansas and other states as well that are more conservative. They would nominate candidates that claimed to be pro-Second Amendment, pro-life, and just to try to reach out to the more moderates and to the little more conservative Democrats in their populations and draw their vote. But now the Democrats are the really divided party, and this really has started fostering since the big 2014 landslide against Democrats that we saw in elections last year. And so now Democrats getting ready for this 2016 presidential campaign. You would think they'd be united because most of them are supporting Hillary Clinton right now. That's what the polls are showing. But at the same time, that party is splintering, while the Republicans, although there's so many candidates, Republicans are starting to organize and congeal around a pretty strong conservative message. So that's going to be interesting to watch how that affects next year's campaign as Obama's a lame duck.
It will. And the interesting thing about this, it's really this one bill that it's all come down to. It's not like it's one big ideology.
Right.
It's this one bill.
It's just a trade bill. I mean, it's not about foreign policies from a military standpoint. It's not about tax policy. It's not about healthcare policy. That's another issue right there too. We understand here in the next couple of weeks the Supreme Court should release. We'll definitely be covering that on this show, but Obamacare might unravel as the whole program might collapse because the Supreme Court's about to make a ruling, or they may even have ruled, just not release the ruling on it yet, but they're going to do a ruling on some of these programs on Obamacare, and it's expected to completely unravel it if it goes the way that some people are expecting it to go.
And that's the second big court ruling that's supposed to be coming up this month. That and the one about gay marriage.
Right, the two major ones.
And normally, a Supreme Court ruling wouldn't affect people as much as these will.
Right. It's funny you mentioned the marriage issue too, because we were just talking a short while ago about Miley Cyrus, and here's this girl that claimed several years ago to be raised in a fundamentalist Christian Baptist household. Supposedly, I don't know how Christian they were, because her father wasn't necessarily really the most Christ exampled person out there, I'm sure, but she went from claiming to be a Christian to now she's dropping expletive words on Christians, and she's even saying that fundamentalist Christians should get away from what she called fairy tales like Noah's Ark and what she say about
she said that we're past that, just like we're past Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy.
And just look at her image now, where she's gone from a young lady that was very much a so-called teen idol. Really, I guess a lot of girls really looked up to her back just several years ago. It wasn't long ago, 4 or 5 years ago. Now you see pictures of her, and she's definitely not someone you want to emulate, for sure.
Definitely not. A few more, or I guess probably just a couple more quick headlines. Jordan, did you hear about the NAACP leader in Spokane, Washington, who had been faking the fact that she was black? She was actually white.
I heard just briefly. I hadn't heard a whole lot. I hadn't read into that story a whole lot, but I heard it in passing while listening to a radio broadcast this morning. There was a story that came up about it. That's a very interesting article, or interesting event too, I guess you could say, or interesting issue going on.
Mm-hmm.
A comment was made. I don't know if it was Herman Cain, the former presidential candidate, or somebody along those lines, Ben Carson or somebody. I'm trying to remember exactly how they put it. I saw him briefly on Facebook as I was going through, but he made a comment something like, it's easier for a non-black liberal person to make it into the NAACP than it is for a black conservative to make it into the NAACP, if I can remember that comment correctly. I saw it a while back, so I don't remember who it was that said that, but I thought that was pretty interesting.
And we're definitely not against the NAACP. It's a good, just when you go back to its foundations, it's a good organization. It stands for, or at least used to stand for, good things. I don't know much about it now, but when you get into these big organizations, they tend to get very political, and they tend to eventually get corrupt. And I think we see that with this right now.
Absolutely. Something else that was interesting I came across as well. There's a lot of speculation that Kmart may collapse. They said that the magnitude of the downfall is stunning. It was in 2000 they raked in $37 billion in sales, and last year registered only about $12 billion in sales, so almost a 70% sales plunge in a little more than a decade. Went from over 2,000 stores 15 years ago to now under 1,000. And even Sears, even though Sears is struggling, Sears looked better in comparison, only with revenue falling 54% in that same time frame instead of 70%. So there's a lot of speculation that Kmart, which was once on track just about a quarter century ago, or a little over a quarter century ago, but on track to become the nation's largest retailer, now that store might be on the way out. And as a former Sears associate, I've long said that Sears probably should shut down their Kmart division, or at least sell off the brand to somebody else. Since 2005, when those two companies have come together, it's been a disaster for both companies. It's been awful for their marketing and for their business strategy, for sure.
Yeah, and there's so many other places where people can get the same types of things.
Yeah.
And I know here there's a lot more convenient places than Kmart.
Kmart's like a more expensive Walmart or Dollar General or something like that. Sears, there's still a lot of value to Sears with the Craftsman and Kenmore brands. Sears is a company you definitely want to see stay around for a while.
Yeah, we're running out of time. I hope maybe you gained something productive from this segment tonight, but we're running out of time, so we will return with our biblical segment.
Welcome back. We appreciate you tuning in to us for the Patriots of Faith on location.